Fido, and welcome to the Pantheon, where we're coming to the end of Modern Horizons 2 here. We've got a rather oozy sort of individual. It's Aeve, Progenitor Ooze, who weighs in at 5 mana, and it's a 2/2. And it's an ooze. And it has that most loved of all mechanics, it's Storm. Storm means when you cast a spell, copy it for each spell cast before it this turn. Copies become tokens. This is a brand new ruling with all these sorts of copy permanent sort of things. And then Aeve Progenitor Ooze isn't legendary if it's a token. So all of your tokens stick around because it'd be rather terrible if all of them died. And it enters the battlefield with a 1/1 counter on it for each other ooze you control. Now, the interesting thing about that is because this is Storm, each of those copies resolve separately. So the first one will come in, it's a 2/2. Then the next one will come in, it'll see 1 ooze, so it's a 3/3. And they build up and build up and build up. And each one of them is going to get a progressively higher amount of counters, which is pretty good. So, this is a brand new commander. Storm, mono green. Is it good? It's not the best. It's okay, but, you know, we can do some things with it. If you like these videos, do please consider subscribing. I'm going to be making one of these for every single legendary creature ever printed. And we're almost at the end of Modern Horizons 2. You know, we're getting to the final hurdle. So, without further ado, let's get into the top 5. Number 5, it's a whole mechanic. It's Suspend, and Crashing Footfalls is one of my favourite cards with it. The sorcery with Suspend 4, which means you can pay a green to exile it from your hand, with 4 time counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, remove a time counter on it. Then the last is removed, cast it without paying its mana cost. And you create 2 4/4 green Rhino creature tokens with Trample. So this is a really cool mechanic because you can set up your turns ahead of time, and when it comes off Suspend, you are actually casting the card. So that's at least 1 storm count for our commander. And this fits really well with a very token sort of centered theme that we're going to go for. Because, you know, our commander is essentially a bunch of tokens, really. And you can set up the Suspend, so maybe play this one first, and then with Suspend 2, you could have a Rift Sower. The entire mana base, or mana ramp sort of section of this deck, I'd really sort of concentrate on these Suspend cards, because they work so well with our commander. Rift Sower is a 3 mana 1/3 that taps to add 1 mana of any colour. That's decent by itself, you know, you wouldn't play it for that, but it has Suspend 2, so you can pay a green, and then it comes off 2 turns from now, and you're casting the spell. And because it's a creature, it gains haste, which is pretty damn neat. Then, brand new card here, Soul Talisman. Artifact, Suspend 3 for a single generic mana, and it taps for 2 colourless. So this is obviously a Soul Ring, but we can set up ahead of time, suspend a bunch of these Suspend 3s on the same turn, and then we're going to cast them all at the same time. We're going to have enough mana to cast our commander. Bing bang bosh. Thank you and good night. Then there's Mox Tantalite. Artifact with Suspend 3 for 0. So you can do this before you play a land drop on your first turn. Ooh, nice. Which sets you up really nicely to be able to probably cast your commander on 5 if you've ramped in some other way. Then you can tap it to add 1 mana of any colour. Then a couple of other cards here. Gear's Will. Sorcery with Suspend 4. And you pay a green. Until end of turn, you may play lands and cast spells from your graveyard. If a card will be put into your graveyard from anywhere this turn, exile that card instead. So this allows us, you know, we're going to be playing a couple of other little artifacts and stuff like that we can cast. And this allows us to recast every one of them because, you know, the baubles sacrifice themselves. Then another classic ramp spell here, Search for Tomorrow. 3 mana for a sorcery, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, and then shuffle your library with Suspend 2 for a single green. So the fact that this comes in untapped is really quite powerful, as if we suspend this on turn 1, we just turn 3, we get a single land drop, and then play another, so on and so forth, to be able to cast loads of stuff. Then finally, Apocryphite, 2 mana for an artifact construct with a 1/1. When it enters the battlefield with 3 1/1 counters, if you didn't cast it from your hand. That's interesting. When it dies, exile it with 3 time counters on it, and it gains Suspend. So this is a really cool card. You can sacrifice it to maybe, I don't know, some kind of sack outlet, and then it can come back and you can set up casting your commander to coincide with the Apocryphite. Really nice, and it comes in with 1/1 counters, which might be a bit of a theme as well. Which brings me on to number 4. And at number 4, here are a couple of free cards that you don't even have to spend mana for. Endurance, brand new card, 3 mana, 3/4 with flash and reach. When it enters the battlefield, up to one target player puts all the cards from their graveyard on the bottom of the library in a random order. So a nice bit of graveyard hate, you know, green's really good at that. Scavenging Ooze is an ooze. Will it come up later? Yes, it will. And it's got an evoke cost of exile a green card from your hand. So, worst case scenario, you're on turn 5, you exile a card, play this for free, and then you play your commander. Wow. That's great. But you can use this in conjunction with another couple of free spells like Urza's Bauble, which is a 0 mana artifact that you can tap and sacrifice it. Look at a card at random in target player's hand. You draw a card at the beginning of next turn's upkeep. So the fact that this replaces itself in terms of putting a card back in your hand, and it's a 0 cost, so you can just flash them all in. It's really, really nice. Then Mishra's Bauble, the one that people are probably more familiar with because of modern. 0 mana for an artifact. Tap, sacrifice it, look at the top card of target player's library. Draw a card at the beginning of next turn's upkeep. So again, replace it itself, cast it for free on the turn we want to get a big storm count. Then Sprout Swarm. This isn't free, but it could be, you know, if you've got enough tokens. 2 mana for an instant with Convoke, which means your creatures can help you cast it by paying for one colour of whatever they are. And it has buyback for 3, which means there's an additional cost. You can pay 3 and return it to your hand. And you can convoke that 3 mana. Put a 1/1 green sapling creature token into play. So if you have 10 tokens, you can cast this thing for free twice, which increases your storm count. Your army's bigger. And as your army grows, so you had a token double or something like that, you can keep convoking out using those tokens that you just used, as it doesn't care about summoning sickness. Which brings me on to Terramorph and Rebound. 4 mana for a sorcery. Search your library for a basic land card and put it onto the battlefield. Then shuffle. Rebound, if you cast that spell from your hand, exile it as it resolves. At the beginning of your next upkeep, you may cast this card from exile without paying its mana cost. So again, it's a free cast of a spell. Absolutely wonderful. Nice bit of ramp. And again, this puts the land onto play untapped. Then we've got Vine Dryad. Now this artwork's amazing. This card's garbage, but it is a free cast. 4 mana for a 1/3 with Forest Walk. Ooh, nice. As long as you play, you can play it as an instant, so it has flash, and you may remove a green card from your hand from the game instead of paying Vine Dryad's mana cost. So it's slightly worse than Endurance, slightly. In every conceivable way it is. Although it does have Forest Walk, which is nice. And then we've got Card of Calling, triple green and X, instant with Convoke again. Search your library for a creature card with converting mana cost X or less and put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. So this is really cool. We can search up, Creative Behemoth, and then with all of our dudes, absolutely slamming for tons of damage. And this can just get absolutely any card in the deck. It's really, really versatile, and we're going to be making a ton of tokens. Which brings me on to number 3. And at number 3, we've got Food Chain. And this subset of cards is all about the sort of token making of our commander. So, Food Chain, 3 mana for an enchantment. Remove a creature you control from the game. Add X mana of any colour to your mana pool, where X is the removed creature's converted mana cost plus 1. This mana may be spent only to play creature spells. So, the tokens that we make have their casting cost and their converted mana cost, even though they're tokens. I believe. I think that's the way it works. So we get 2 tokens. Well, that's 12 mana from Food Chain. We sack both of them. We recast our commander for 7 mana. Then we get 3 versions of it. So we get 18 mana. And it just goes up and up and up. We end up with an absolutely colossal board of tokens. And, it's just ridiculous. Pretty good Food Chain. Very expensive card. But the more interesting thing is that they retain their mana cost. So that triple green in our commander, each of those tokens will have triple green. So Nyx Lotus is a 4 mana legendary artifact that enters the battlefield tapped. Choose a colour. Add an amount of mana of any colour equal to the devotion to that colour. So if we've got 3 copies of our commander on the field and our original commander, that's 12 devotion. So this bad boy is going to tap for 12 mana, which is pretty game ending. Then Clothis' Designs is a 6 mana sorcery. Creatures you control get +X until end of turn, where X is your devotion to green. So again, the more commanders we have on the field, the bigger everything gets. Sadly, this doesn't, however, grant us trample, but I'm sure there's some ways we can do that. Maybe Nylea, the original version. Nykthos Shrine to Nyx is the classic here, legendary land that taps for a colorless, or it might be a generic, I can't remember. Pay 2 and tap it, choose a color. Add an amount of mana equal to the amount of devotion of that color. So we're going to pick green. You might pick red. You're willing. You can do. You can do whatever you want. Then Karametra's Acolyte, 4 mana for a 1/4. Tap to add an amount of green to your mana pool equal to your devotion to green. Again, absolutely tons of mana, which allows us to maybe sacrifice our commander, recast it, get even more copies of it. Absolutely fantastic. Then Primal Crux is a green for an elemental with star. And it's got trample and chroma, which is just devotion. Primal Crux's power and toughness are each equal to the number of green mana symbols in your mana cost of permanents you control. So we're going to have absolutely tons of it with all our commanders on the field. So this guy is going to be enormous. Maybe play this before you ramp out to create a massive commander turn where you storm off, because this is also 6 green, and all of that devotion is going to power up the cards I've just shown you as well. You're going to get tons of mana just from this guy alone. Finally, Nylea Keen-Eyed, which is the second version of Nylea. Better version, in my opinion. 4 mana for a 5/6 with Indestructible, as long as devotion to green is less than 5. She isn't a creature, she just hides away as an enchantment god thing. Then, creature spells you cast cost 1 generic less to cast. Really good with Storm, we can get a good chain going of creatures, and then our commander costs 1 less as well. Then, if we've got a bunch of mana left over, which, considering the amount we can make, 3 mana, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature card, put it into your hand. Otherwise, you may put it into your graveyard. So you can just dig through your deck for whatever you want, which is pretty solid. Coming in at number 2, we've got Elemental Bond. 3 mana for an enchantment. Whenever a creature of power 3 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. Now, I mentioned at the start that when each of the Storm copies of our commander resolves, they resolve in sequence. So the first one comes in as 2/2, then 3/3 because we're seeing other oozes, then 4/4, so on and so forth. So they keep getting bigger and bigger. So if we have a Storm count of 5, with Elemental Bond on the field, we're going to see 4 3/3s coming into play. So we're going to draw 4 cards, which is pretty goddamn solid. To go along with this, Garrick's Pack Leader is a 5 mana 4/4 with, whenever another creature with power 3 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, you may draw a card. The important thing about these cards is the fact that they say, well, they don't say, non-token. So, because it's just a creature, this works fantastically with our commander. Then, this is a really cool card, Abundance, 4 mana for an enchantment. If you would draw a card, you may instead choose land or non-land and reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a card of the chosen kind. Put that card into your hand and put all of the other cards revealed this way on the bottom of your library in any order. So when you're storming off, and you're going to have a couple of cantrips, Urza's Bauble, all that sort of gubbins, when you draw that card, you name whatever you want. And when you're storming off, you really don't want lands. So this helps you filter through. And it's 2 devotion to green. Look at that mana cost. Wow. Absolutely phenomenal. And the artwork's really good. Rebecca Gray did a really good job. Finally, we've got Armorcraft Judge. 4 mana for a 3/3. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card for each creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it. So all of our commander things, the various oozes that have sort of plopped off it, each of them are going to have a 1/1 counter. And so we're going to end up drawing a ton of cards with Armorcraft Judge entering the battlefield. Which brings me on to number 1. And at number 1, we've got Ooze Tribal. What everyone's always wanted, just gelatinous oozes wriggling and squirming all over the place. And one of the best ones is Bio-Waste Blob, which is an incredible, incredible name. 4 mana for a 0/0. Nice. Oozes you control get +1/+1. So this does actually affect itself, which is interesting because most lords don't affect themselves, but I guess it fits. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control a commander, create a token that's a copy of Bio-Waste Blob. So that name is amazing. So this can keep growing and growing and growing, and it also grows all of our commanders, all of our little token dudes. Really, really awesome. Then we've got Mitotic. Mitotic? I don't know. It's a slime. 5 mana for an ooze. When it dies, create 2/2/2 green ooze creature tokens with. When this creature dies, create 2 1/1 green ooze creature tokens. We're going to have tons of oozes all over the gaff, just slipping and sliding everywhere. I love the artwork on this. It looks horrifying. Need I say more? Speaking of horrifying, Scavenging Ooze is an amazing card. 2 mana for an ooze. Pay a green, exile target card from a graveyard. If it was a creature card, put a 1/1 counter on it, and you gain 1 life. Absolutely wonderful graveyard hate. It's cheap, so in the middle of storming off, you can cast this pretty damn easily, and it just does so much work against graveyard-based decks. Then we've got Biogenic Ooze. 5 mana for a 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, create a 2/2 green ooze creature token. At the beginning of your end step, put a 1/1 counter on each ooze you control. So every one of our token commanders, 1/1 counters everywhere. And then if we've got a bunch of mana left over, 4 mana, create a 2/2 green ooze creature token. Pretty good. Then these aren't as good, but Oran Reef Ooze, 3 mana for a 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. Can be itself. Ooh. When it attacks, put a 1/1 counter on each attacking creature with a 1/1 counter on it. So again, all of our token copies of our commander will have 1/1 counters. So bing bang bosh, thank you, good night. Then this one works again in the sort of devotion realm. Ancient Ooze, 7 mana for a star. Its power and toughness are each equal to the total converted mana cost of creatures you control. So all of those tokens are going to have loads of stats. Or does that work? I think it does. I don't know. Splitting Slime is 5 mana for a 3/3 with Monstrosity, which is 6 mana. Monstrosity 3, 6 mana. If the creature isn't monstrous, put 3 1/1 counters on it, and it becomes monstrous. Then, when it becomes monstrous, put a token into the battlefield that's a copy of Splitting Slime. It has no counters on it, and it isn't monstrous. So, again, an excellent mana dump for all of your things, and it's oozes everywhere. And those are my top 5 cards for this oozy guy. Did you ever watch the Power Rangers movie with Ivan Ooze? That was genuinely one of my favourite films ever. And, if you ooze, you lose. So thank you very much for watching. Please do subscribe and like and comment if you like this. I really appreciate it. Thanks for watching. Bye.